Should we do the last fan take? Because I've got one more fan take for you. This one's a good one because it doesn't actually matter what region you watch. It's one of the rare takes about the game itself. So a guy called Trocchio07 says, WASD change will result in Riot losing more players than inviting them into the game. Change will potentially ruin pro play and satisfaction for old ADC players and other roles. You can't properly balance for two different movement patterns, the champions he means, and he says holding both S and right click and auto spacing perfectly will just ruin so many champions. What do you think, boys?
This was my hot take a couple of weeks ago, and it got proven right, and all the wee fuckers in the comments were just basically saying that Kiri's an idiot, he doesn't know anything about all the esports I've watched, by the way. I know nothing about movement mechanics and character control and all that. You guys are all the fucking experts, right, okay? You are all the guys, and then what's that? Every single fucking video on my Twitter is like, guys, look how busted this is. I'm an absolute handless ape, and I can just kid like fucking ruler. And it's just like, that after that. The Callista's broken as well. Oh, Ezreal's broken as well. Guys, this might be disturbing. I'm not sure that this should be added to the game. And then you've got rioters just going, yes, we'll be reviewing this, and we will be phasing it into the game. We will add it to standard, and then eventually we will have it as a movement option and ranked. I swear to God, Riot has two options. We have to either nerf it, or they will obsolete years of like hand-eye coordination.
By the way, do you know the biggest fucking downer of that whole topic, Kiri, is this is where Riot has actually outdone themselves. Do you know they themselves, one of them said some comment not that long ago that was along the lines of like, if it ends up being OP, we'll just get rid of it. Which is like, why are you bringing it in then? To me, if you bring it in, it's because you want it to. Here's the thing I don't get. I thought the whole point of adding that was actually, if anything, you're almost listening to my old 10-year-old take of like, League isn't about mechanics, and you're like, I want it to be about, I want everyone to be doing sick moves and stuff, even though this actually makes it easier. So I don't know. Go on, keep going, boys.
I feel like the take is very accurate, and I think it's not in the sense of whether or not it's good for competitive, because I'm on your side here. I think that there is always a winning set of inputs, right? But the problem is when you have a winning set of inputs, it creates a pretty deep conflict between your legacy players and your new players, right? Because if the newer set of inputs is easier to pick up with, but worse, it means that the new players will have to first learn the game through a certain set of mechanics, hit a ceiling, and have to relearn, which is gonna eventually balance where the majority of the players are going to be the one asking for their inputs to become standard, and they all want to be replaced. But if you kill the legacy skill, then you demotivate your existing fan base, who is players like me who are in their 30s, have all the buy power for their now legacy $500 skins. So it's a huge value, right? I think that my generation, right, the millennials and the early Zoomers, represent the biggest buy power for Riot Games. And so if they betray through inputs all the legacy skill we do have, we will leave and we will not return, because we have lives and we're going to find ways of entertaining ourselves that are different. While there is absolutely no promise that because of WQSD, new players will enjoy the game. And once again, if their input is better, we leave. If their input is worse, they will eventually leave. So it's extremely toxic, while having, I think we're all pretty old gentlemen here. We've seen a lot of gaming in esports since the early 2000s. And every time there's been a conflict of inputs and motion, the games has gone, it's a dragster launched against the wall. Because it's just fracture communities, and fracture communities leave games because half of the community is advocating for the game being dead for a very specific reason, and the other one becomes a niche elite like the melee player that will keep the game alive, but the game will never expand ever again.
Yep.
All right, my take on this, because obviously I'll try not to repeat the things I said on the one where Kira made it, like you say, like a few episodes back. So first of all, I'll take a point I think I did make during that one, which is I think I made the point, because it's a classic one I've made many times. Didn't I make the point that one of the things I didn't like about StarCraft 2 was that it took away a lot of what were considered boring things, like sending the worker to go to the mining patch, but doing it efficiently and like basically like animation cancelling. It took a lot of that away, and it just made it like, right, the worker just does it efficiently anyway. You get to the supply of the massive death ball, you can just air move the whole death ball, you have the micro everything, and essentially it took a lot of that aspect out. Here's what's funny that people won't get. That already sort of exists in League anyway, because League isn't a super mechanical game. I know you can be mechanically excellent, but actually what people liked about StarCraft 2 is what I think people like about League of Legends. It's not about insane micro, but it's about decision-making and macro decisions. That's what people want to see in the game. Now, there are occasional moments where they want to see the insane micro, and there's a little bit of that in League, but part of that in League comes from the fact that it isn't streamlined. The fact that you actually have to, the ADC is the best role to use for this example, because famously on ADC, you have to literally click away from the character, then click back to attack them, but also to dodge and a move. So that means there's a certain amount of bandwidth of mechanical skill, and with your brain of remembering to do this intuitively before you then like get the hit on the person, then think of the next thing. That taking up some of the bandwidth is good. It's at the point that, if you remember, the Doper guy made about how Faker played was, half of what Faker did in lane wasn't actually outhands you. It was like load you up with the bandwidth of thinking the jungler was coming, or that he's faking a base, or like stepping forwards when you think he'll step. Things that like basically made you have to use some of your brain bandwidth up, so you had less to actually focus on doing a sick or attack and a dodge him. So my problem here is this. What are the games that pioneered WASD as necessary? FPS games, right? FPS games, you're looking from the POV, and because everyone is aiming with super slow for low sensitivities and massive mouse pads, you're all basically seeing who can quicker aim at a pixel on the screen and shoot it. That has no connection to League of Legends at all. League of Legends isn't even a POV game. You can see the guy the whole time. That's why you can look back and look away. Imagine in Counter-Strike, if you couldn't strafe, you would have to press the right key to turn, walk forwards a bit, turn back, and then aim at the guy. Like, that would be absurd. So in that game, WSD makes it better. It elevates the experience. In League, it'll make it worse. I mean, one of the biggest problems I have is this. Not only is the bandwidth worse, League already, as any skill shot champion knows, has the most generous, some would say broken hitboxes imaginable. Every hook champion player knows. You don't have to land it on them. You land it slightly at the edge and it snaps on this motherfucker. So already, if people get super streamlined, every good ADC player just has 95% clean mechanics because of this. It's going to ruin every single fucking team fight. And then also, half of what makes ADC champions able to be balanced is that, like, they actually, think about it, right? They're not mid laners. They don't just dump all the fucking damage. They have to stay alive. The longer they stay alive, the more DPS they do. That's the whole point of their role. Well, the problem is, the easier you make it for them to dodge and or kite and or rapidly fire, you are making their role OP'd by default. You're not doing anything to the other roles, but you're making their role just OP and easier. And the reason why I already know we can't have that is because as of right this moment, before WASD in pro play, I'm looking at all the regions and the ADCs are carrying the fuck out of these games. People like Ruler are smooth. Even in that KT Gen G series, as much as I was talking about BDD, Doctam had the life series of his entire fucking life. Like, he could die tomorrow, he'll never have a game that good again. That was part of why they were able to win that fucking game for reals. Like, he had a fucking insane series. So you can't make people like Ruler better at the game. And you definitely, by the way, can't take Flackhead and make it so tomorrow he's mechanically equal to opposite. You will ruin the game completely. And I think you will just skew this game to an extent that will actually destroy it. As much as people bitch about League, I actually think at the moment the role balance is fairly reasonable. I actually think there's a lot of like leeway for individual players to make it work. It's not, you don't just pick this champion or, oh, I'll play top and he plays ADC, so I guess he wins. No, I feel like League's actually in a healthy spot in terms of the game. It's not for viewership, so I wouldn't be fucking with this at all. And lastly, as I said, the weirdest part of all is that messaging, which I think is counter-signaling of, don't worry, if it becomes OP, I guess we'll just like nerf it. So I was like, then what are we doing? To me, you only bring this in to make the game better. You think it, essentially, you'd have to disagree with everything I said and think that's superior. You want everyone to be WASD sliding around. And if anyone's seen any of the clips online, by the way, some of the clips, which remember are people who've only used it for a week or two, are utterly insane already. Like, there are some clips that are impossible, bro. Like this clip, if I told you it wasn't WASD, you'd just think that's the greatest player to ever play ADC. It's a rando just in like a fucking practice queue or something. You know, like, it's mental. It's mental.
And one thing I just didn't understand about it is, and the target audience of like what they're going about, like the whole like Fortnite stuff like that, okay, is if you were going to do it, why was it not controller? Like, that's what the bit, like,
that's a good point. Yeah.
Controller is literally designed for like 2-stick thing, but then your thumbs have to move off of the stick to then, unless you do the fucking Gundam thing where you hold your controller backwards like the Japanese do, right? But that has like limitations of like control and that. And that makes a lot more sense, and you can have an entire, like, ecosystem of that existing, and it doesn't infringe on the PC guys. Like, a console release of League of Legends. Like, that makes sense if that's Riot's, like, point. This doesn't make sense. It just doesn't line up with any
It will come
value.
eventually. The way they announce Valorant for console, I think they're aiming for that. I think that's one of the key reasons. I think it's expanding to the console market because I think they're trying to, like, look for any source of customer acquisition. I think a lot of the way the game is tailored right now is just very streamlined. I do understand the strategy, but I think that it is a pretty, to my eyes, it seems that the health of League of Legends and Riot Games is pretty shaky. Because if you're ready to open the Pandora's box, knowing, because they're not that stupid. I think there is plenty of game designers in the hallways and the offices of Riot Games that are like, man, I've been working on League for like 5 years. I work on Valorant. And I think this is the Pandora's box. And if they're ready to open the Pandora's box, I think they're pretty desperate to get new player acquisition, because I think the numbers are probably dropping faster than what expected. And they're like, do or die, otherwise we'll just put it in maintenance. Just keep the esports alive, and then we'll see how it goes. The way, I don't know, like Epic and Epic Games with Rocket League, they don't really care about it. It's like, it used to be great, and now it costs a lot of money. There is no player acquisition. People go on Fortnite. They're like, yeah, fuck it. And I'm pretty sure like that's kind of like how Riot behaves with League right now. Like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and we won't spend any more time and effort in League of Legends anymore.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.